Hello and welcome to the 7th part of the Slide for Any Percent tutorial series. In this part, we'll cover the latter portion of episode 3, which means the jobs Starving Hippo, Ice Ice Bentley, Duty Calls, and Operation Jurassic Thievery. So after going up, when you reach the safe house, once again, just mash X to select Murray for the second time in a row. And let's get going, and even though this job is the second shortest in the episode, there is a lot of stuff to cover. This split is notorious for its RNG, so from the load, hold up for a brief moment and then start switching holding right to go down this ramp, and the job trigger is straight ahead of you, and mash start when you reach it in order to skip a cinematic. So in this job you have to catch 5 penguins that have these gravity encabulators. So first, before getting to the technicalities, let's talk about these penguins and their properties. So I now have traveled far away from the spawning location, and you can see that the penguins are following. They're very slow at doing so, but when you are far away from the penguins, they walk very slowly and they walk towards you, but their AI is very, well, inefficient. But then when you get to a certain distance away from them, they start to react and they start doing that animation when they're looking, oh my god, look at these other guys. Now, their animation triggers when they reach a certain distance from Murray, and they're just gonna stay still in this animation until you've reached a close enough distance, and then they start to run. Right about now. Then they run for a certain moment, and they just reach a distance when they're just continuing that same animation. And when you're chasing these penguins, they are extremely fast. They run with the equal speed to Murray, so the only way you're gonna catch them is that if they bonk off from a corner or an edge or a wall, or if you get them cornered in any way like this. So then you can get them. And then when you catch one, you have to mash a button, which can be either of the 4 main buttons in order to get a one. And if you don't restart checkpoints between penguin grabs, you can see that there are actually 2 sizes of penguins that are spawning. Like, you can see that penguin on the left is clearly smaller than the other ones, and these small penguins run slower than the default penguin models. These penguin models are the same size as the normal penguins that run around the map throughout this entire episode without the gravity encabulators. Now, I don't know why this happens exactly, but it only happens if you keep going without restarting checkpoint after grabbing a penguin. Since they don't move at all until you reach a certain distance from them, and after they start to move directly away from you. You can use this to your advantage by positioning yourself in a way that the penguins are gonna run up against a side of a wall or to a corner, and as a result turn away, and you can grab them and catch them easily. So you see right here, I'm positioning Murray so that that wall behind them is like directly in the way of their path of movement. So you can see what happens here. They're just gonna turn up, and I'm gonna grab one. So an example here at the start with the first set of penguins, because the first set of penguins always spawns right in front of you, I'm gonna go a bit left and then run directly straight to this point over here. Just copy my line of movement and you should get these kinds of outcomes very consistently. So with this tactic, even if there's only 1 penguin left, even if it's the last penguin, by doing this line of movement you should always grab one around here. So then let's get to the RNG basics. Now you can see from the map screen that the first spawn is guaranteed to be over here, but this is actually the only spawn location in this entire job that is completely guaranteed. Even if you restart checkpoint before snatching the first penguin, you're gonna get a different spawn location for the penguin. So now you see the penguin spawned like a million miles away from you. So after restarting checkpoint, you always spawn at this location, but the penguins can spawn in a total of 5 different locations. And within the community, these locations have certain names and a number code tied to them. And the number is based on the distance from the default spawn location, which is right here, where I am standing as Murray right now. So the first spawn is number 1, and it is referred simply as spawn, because you know, it's kind of like the default spawn at the start of the job. And throughout this job, these 5 spawning locations are kind of random. There are certain rules that we're gonna get into soon, but there certainly is a lot of RNG involved. And even within a certain spawn location, the penguins are not gonna spawn to the exact same locations. They're gonna spawn to a random spot within a certain radius from one of those 5 spawning locations. So this is spawn 1. Next up, this is spawn 2. It's pretty much at the center of the map. So the spawn 2 is referred as crossroads. When running to spawn 2, we're gonna do the same trick as with spawn 1. So I'm gonna cut the corner right here. So now the penguins are gonna run, at least one of them is gonna run straight at me. So here, for example, I've seen one time when up to 3 penguins all spawned on top of this upper platform right here. So even obscurities like that can happen. Then this is spawn 3, and it's by far the most northern spawn of these. The spawn 3 is referred as caverns, or ice caverns, since the ice caverns in Ice Ice Bentley are near to that spawn location. So when I'm running over here from the default spawn location, sometimes one of the penguins can spawn on top of this platform, so then he basically can't escape it. But usually you're gonna easily corner them either to the back of the caverns or then to the back of this corner right here. Then this is spawn 4, so it's on the left, but it's more left than the spawn 2 was. And this spawn is referred as pit. We usually never run to this spawn location from the default spawn location, but the name of this location is based on the tar pit that is very close to this area, which is right here, and a lot of penguins can get trapped to several corners, but we don't have a specific plan to how exactly we're gonna trap the penguins in this spawn location. So this is also very far away from the default spawn location, and also trapping the penguins is considered inconsistent at the moment. And this is the final, the 5th spawn, which is the furthest away from the default spawn location, all the way at the far left. And this spawn is referred as statue. This is because the spawns happen next to Grizz's statue. And here, even though we pretty much never run here, except in one specific scenario, getting the penguins cornered is pretty easy in front of the gate of the paint factory. So here are the spawns in their entirety. So the thing with this job is that after snatching 1 gravity encabulator from a certain penguin from a certain spawn location, the penguins can only spawn in certain spawn locations after that. They cannot spawn to any of the other 4, and there are certain rules here. From a certain spawn location in a certain scenario, after obtaining an encabulator, they can spawn in either 1, 2, or 3 different locations, and it all depends on the previous spawn location specifically. And I'm gonna explain them all. Now, I only talked about scenarios where I actually obtained a gravity encabulator from a certain spawn location. Now, what if the penguins had spawned in a certain spawn location, but I would not obtain the encabulator and instead would restart checkpoint again? Then the same thing applies, but with a bit more possible scenarios. So let's start by going through all of them. After you snatch a penguin from spawn 1, the penguins can spawn in either locations 3, 4, or 5 with equal probability. If I would have restarted checkpoint after getting a spawn 1, then the possible spawn locations would be exactly the same with same probability rates. So the nearest spawn, spawn 2, is not possible from 1, but every other spawn is. If you go and snatch a penguin from spawn 2, only spawn 5 can happen after that. So literally spawn 5 in front of you, over there, around the statue, is the only spawn that can happen. Now, if you would restart checkpoint from a 2 without snatching a penguin from there, then instead only spawn 5 being possible. Also spawns 4 and 3 are possible. Okay, next up, spawn 3. So when you snatch a penguin from spawn 3 caverns, 2 different spawn locations are possible. And those are 1 and 4. Now I got a 1. But if you would restart checkpoint without obtaining a penguin from spawn 3, then after that there would be equal possibility to get one of 3 spawns, which are 3, which would be the same spawn again, and then 4 and 5, but not 1. 1 would not happen. Now if you get a penguin snatched from spawn 4, also 2 different spawn locations are possible, and those are 3 and 1. And now I got a spawn at 3. Equal probabilities. But if I would restart checkpoint without obtaining a penguin from spawn location 4, then once again one of 3 different spawns can happen with equal probability, and those are 4 again. So the same spawn could happen back to back when restarting checkpoint, and then 3 and also 5. And finally, after snatching a penguin from spawn 5, 2 different spawn locations can happen after that with equal probability, and those would be spawns 1 or 2. And with spawn 5, the nice thing is that if you would restart checkpoint without obtaining a penguin from spawn 5, the same spawns 1 or 2 happen with equal probability. So I'm trying to make this easier to understand by showing this image that I made with Microsoft Paint. Now here you can see all the spawn locations being numbered, and if there's a black arrow between numbers pointing to either of them, then that means that the penguins can spawn to that location after obtaining a penguin from that previous spawn location. But then the gray arrows also indicate the scenarios that can only happen when you restart checkpoint after the penguins had spawned to a certain location. So you can see here that only with spawns 3 and spawns 4 you can get the same exact spawn after restarting a checkpoint again. And for this final paint image, I'm gonna show the scenarios what you should actually optimally do in different situations regarding the routing of this job for speedruns. So here you can either see the text run between different spawn locations or RC, and RC is an abbreviation for restart checkpoint, and it means that after you have identified the spawn location to be one of those where you should restart checkpoint if you got one of them, then just instantly restart checkpoint as quickly as you can. And the texts are surrounded by circles, and if the sphere of that circle is in contact with one of the other black arrows pointing to a certain destination, then that means the instruction applies for that arrow. Between spawns 2 and 5 there is a one quick little notification there. So after snatching a penguin from spawn 2, only spawn 5 is possible next. So if you restart checkpoint after getting a penguin from spawn 5, you're gonna get spawns 1 or 2 again with the same probability. And there, depending on the distance from spawn 5, it can be either faster or slower on average to restart checkpoint again. But at least for episode runs, I usually tend to restart checkpoint anyways, in the hopes of getting spawn 1, which is the most optimal spawn. So let's next discuss what is the most optimal possible scenario in terms of RNG that you can possibly get in this job. And that is that after snatching the first penguin from spawn 1, you would get a spawn 5, and optimally I would not open the map, but here I got spawn 3, so instantly this kind of fucked up. But I'm gonna show the correct scenario. Now here I got the spawn 5 after snatching the first penguin. So in the most optimal scenario, you would get a spawn 5 every time after snatching a penguin from spawn 1. So now, after I have collected one of the encabulators, I would restart checkpoint as quickly as I can and I would get spawn 1 again. Now here, once again, I got the unoptimal scenario of the 2 possible scenarios when I got spawn 2, and spawn 2, it takes a bit longer for me to run over there. But getting a spawn 5 and then spawn 2 is still pretty optimal, because the good thing with spawn 2 is that this gives the most consistently good split times on average. Since after collecting an encabulator from spawn 2, you can restart checkpoint again and then the spawn would be guaranteed to be either 1 or 2 again every time. So here it's easy to just chain spawns 2 together. Now here is one of the scenarios where running to spawn 5 when you already have 4 out of 5 penguins is considered relatively optimal. Here I only have 3, but if I would have 4, on average this should be faster to run over here. So the penguins are easy to just corner like this. So the most optimal scenario would just get spawns from 1 to 5, so you're guaranteed to start with 1. So after that, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. The probability of getting this outcome is 0.08%, or 1 in 1,296. So in other words, extremely rare. And there are a lot of different outcomes, but for example, when looking at this image with all the possible respawning locations, you can see that I have erased a few of those arrows for this image specifically, because knowing those things are irrelevant for the optimal routing of this job. Since the scenarios where you're actually gonna restart checkpoint are actually rather limited in this job, and basically only situations where you want to restart checkpoint in this job when you're going for consistently the fastest segment time that is realistic with the RNG given are when you get spawns 4 or 5 after the first penguin. And you can determine that by pressing L3 and checking where the arrow, where the compass is pointing towards. Here it's pointing towards left after I started running left. So in this situation, I would restart checkpoint. And after restarting to checkpoint, you would get any of the spawns basically, because you didn't check exactly if the spawn was 4 or 5. So if it's a 4 again, you want to restart checkpoint again. If it's 3, which would be that way, you would just run to that, because it's not worth it to battle RNG at that point. So it's kind of unfortunate to get a 3. It would also be unfortunate to get a 4 and you would have to restart checkpoint again, but what can you do? So from the load, you want to check if you got spawn 1, and if you didn't, turn the camera and see if you got spawns 2 or then spawns 4 and 5. And if you got 4 and 5, you want to restart checkpoint again. So the spawn 4 is basically the worst that you can get in this job. Given the RNG, given the expected times it takes to get the next penguin, it's faster on average to restart checkpoint, but getting a good segment time is still not guaranteed. So you can end up restarting checkpoint over and over again, but then you're just literally getting trash RNG in that situation. Okay, let's keep going. Then there's the situation where you would get spawn 3 after the first penguin, like this. Here the compass arrow would point directly forwards. Do not restart checkpoint and just keep running forwards to that spawn location. Now sometimes there might be a penguin running towards you rather early, so then you would just snatch it, or then you can go into this corner, and usually there is at least one penguin in that corner. After getting a penguin from spawn 3, you're gonna get either spawn 1 or 4, and here I just quickly tap L3 again to see where the next penguin is, and go to that spawn location. You want to take this route that goes from the bottom level, and here the main goal is to get one of the penguins stuck in that corner right there, and there actually was one penguin stuck there already. Now you can get once again one of 4, 5 or 3, and now I got either 4 or 5, so I will restart checkpoint. Otherwise I would have just ran to spawn 3 once again. So now I got a encabulator from spawn 3, and I see I get a spawn 4 after that. So we'll just run to spawn 4 use this route to run over there. Check where the penguins are. Now here, I would say that just run and try to get them cornered. See if they're small penguins, because those are much easier to catch. So from 4, let's see what I get next. I get spawn 1. So just run to spawn 1 from spawn 4, like this. Here is a slight little shortcut you can do. And there's once again a small penguin, so get that. Let's see if I can get a penguin running towards me here. It looks like there is. So this can happen with spawn 3. A penguin runs towards me. He can run all the way, or then just turn into the opposite direction midway through. With spawn 4, it can also happen that a penguin is running towards you. Now, let me get a 3 here. Yeah, I got a 3. So at this point you can use one of 2 different routes to go back to spawn 3. And if you're close enough to the tar pit, you want to use this route instead. Or then if you're close enough to the crossroads spawn, then you can use the ice bridge. Once again, we got a very, very small penguin who is very slow. The less you restart checkpoint, the more probable it is to just get more and more small penguins, which are easier to snatch. And after getting all the penguins, you have 17 seconds of time to farm coins. So that's what you want to do. So just get as many coins as you can during that minor 17-second long segment, and then the job is over. So that's about it. Let's go back to the safe house and select Bentley by mashing X, and we're gonna go to the job called Ice Ice Bentley. From the load, you wanna hold up left. You wanna fall down from this ledge and go under this big ass bone like this and cut the bad landing. And with AB, hold up left and start ABing straight from the load. This guy is usually always here, so just try to avoid the light as much as you can so that it is easier for you to dodge the closing counter attack as well. And then this guy's just here. Let's just get one full example just to make things very clear here and what to do. And this is an unskippable cutscene that leads into a load, so do not mash start, it won't help you. And just wait out this cutscene, and from the load you want to hold 10 o'clock, so not up left, actually 10 o'clock. And when you see that the load has completed, double tap R1. So in this first area you can see that there are a total of 4 hidden routes that you can blow up with a bomb. But you can see from the map screen that clearly the one behind me, so the first one on the left, is the correct one if you're gonna do the casual route. And the casual route would go all the way from over here, and then you can skip that platform. But in the speedruns we're not gonna do even that, since there's a skip here involving this slope. So just like in Jailhouse Blues, we can slope jump up straight to that platform. Here we have to use pretty much all of the gadget meter in order to reach this platform. And if you blow up that entrance, then the skip doesn't work anymore. A very easy version of the skip is where you first jump straight up and then use the hover pack to jump left. Then you get a checkpoint here, and the next cutscene triggers when you reach that mark. And in order to use AB as much as possible, you gotta use hover pack as less as possible with the skip here. So kinda like this. And now you can use one full AB to get to the next trigger and skip cinematic. When you spawn like this from the start, you can't use a full adrenaline burst, aka a full gadget meter, when you start moving towards the location where you're gonna do the skip. So instead, cancel your AB like 60% through it, just like we did once in Jailhouse Blues. So now you're gonna have enough gadget meter to pull off the skip. So skip cinematic. And in this room, you don't have to move at all. So when you hear sound after the load for the first time, that's when you wanna tap R3 in order to open the binocular. So here the switches you wanna hit are the apple here, then this, what even is that? And then the bird. Seems like it's Grizz's bling bling. And the order you hit these witches does not matter. And if you have proper aim, you won't even lose time, since there's a cooldown for when you can shoot the next dart after another. So I'm just mashing R1 here, and I'm still shooting with this pace. In order to hit the apple, you don't even have to touch the right analog stick. All you gotta do is to zoom a little bit. This was the amount of zoom that was required, so that's like a third of zoom capacity. And after that, what I do at least is just that I aim to the bling, and then during the cooldown I'm gonna adjust my aim so I'm already targeting the bird when the cooldown ends. So in action, and then when the final dart connects, press start immediately and skip cinematic. After skipping the cinematic, you have already gone past the door, so all you gotta do is to just hold slightly up left from the load and double tap R1 to AB. So here we come to this section, and for every beginner on the face of the earth, I recommend you to blow up those bones ahead of you. And the way you're gonna do this is that you see this downhill here on the ground. So after you have completely passed that downhill and you're on a flat ground or even a slight uphill, that's when you wanna start holding L1 and press triangle, and it'll auto-target the bones. Here you have to listen the sound the bomb makes and jump on the 9th little tick 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 sound the bomb makes. So normally the bomb makes 12 of those sounds before it blows up on the 13th. So you can listen to it yourselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So when you hear the 9th tick, that's when you can jump from the edge. There are basically two different ways, or at least two distinct ways, how the eggs are gonna roll. And how the eggs are rolling is basically RNG between these two rolling patterns. So at the end of the first tunnel, there's another blocked pathway. And next to it, there's this hole you can go into in order to dodge the eggs on the right side of this tunnel right before the next thing you're gonna have to blow up. And it's already gonna auto-target that next ice wall right when you pass by the corner of this hole. So about here. So then just throw the bomb. And often there can be an egg rolling right past it at the moment when you're trying to throw the bomb, and then the bomb unfortunately sticks to the egg instead, so that's pretty annoying. From the left side you can see the auto targeting from over here, which is relatively a bit closer. And then just run against the wall when you're waiting the bomb to blow up, and the next cutscene is about right here. And once again skip cinematic. So from start to finish, wait for the gadget meter to fill up, check the correct pattern of the egg, do one more AB, and then throw the bomb, run besides the wall before it blows up, and pause. I'm gonna quickly cover the trigger bomb strats after covering the entire job without trigger bomb, but basically with trigger bomb you can just blow up those bones immediately. But if you don't have trigger bomb and you want to be hardcore and save like a couple of extra seconds, then you can do a hard skip that I only recommend for people who are going for the absolute top times. So you can do this twice in this job and it literally saves like 1 or 2 seconds both times you do them, and they're pretty advanced. So it looks like this. So you're gonna hover back on the right side of this bone platform without actually blowing up the bones. And here you must not hold forward or anywhere near forward with the analog stick, so that Bentley doesn't do this and maybe fall down. It's quite possible. So from that position you want to wait until your gadget meter has refilled up to 50%. And then press X and after pressing X, start directing your movement with the left analog stick. Now you can quickly jump off even from this little platform here. You will eventually slide off from this platform, but you can quickly jump off from it, just like with the skipping Jailhouse Blues, an example. So the view you're gonna get after skipping the cinematic looks like this. So there are a total of 5 guards here, and 3 of them carry a gem that you need to get in order to open the next door, which is over here. And the guards that carry the gems are that guy on the far right, who's looking at the painting, that guy near the next door, who is walking in a circle underneath that other guy who does not have a gem, and then that guy on the far right, who's also walking in a circle, has a gem. So the route we take is that we loot that guard first, and then depending on the cycle of these 2 other guards, we're gonna either loot the right guard or the left guard first. So this is an RNG factor in this job, and you have to react accordingly based on which of the guards is closer to you at each given time. And it's a huge time loss if you get caught here before you have gotten all the gems, since even if you have collected 2 out of 3, you're gonna get placed back at 0 after a job fail. The first stationary guard is really easy, but these other 2 guards stop at various points that are random, so reacting to their stoppages is a very tricky thing that you have to be very careful with it in order to, you know, not run into them just as they stop when you're trying to pickpocket them, like this. So from the start, I don't recommend you to A-B, since then you're not gonna have enough juice for the hover pack with these jumps. Mash circle to pickpocket Ice Bentley. Don't be too close to the edge or you'll be too far from the pocket. And after this animation, hold down left, jump on this ice flow, and here I can see that the other guard was behind that other platform. So I'm gonna loot the right guard first. And I know that the left guard is walking towards me, so do something very risky like that if you know the cycles. And now you can see that after that animation, after getting the 3rd gem, you're gonna get an autosave. You might be in a situation when you can't get over to the next door quickly because there's a guard in your way. Like this guard could be walking to the other direction and blocking my path if I would be over here. So what you want to do in that scenario is to just take a job fail quick, mash X, and you're gonna spawn right in front of the door, and you can just simply move an inch to be in the trigger range. So from the load, just hold up and mash start, and instantly after the load, if you were mashing start, you pretty much already had pressed circle within the trigger zone, and then you can just press start instantly like this. You didn't even see any gameplay there, did you? Now here I can see that the left guard is pretty close, so I'm just gonna go. And in some scenarios you can use AB, just like here, for example. And here you can do the risky play and just once again hover pack behind the guard. And here I can in fact get to the door without taking a job fail, and do like this and skip the cinematic. So after the cinematic, the view you get looks like this. So this section is pretty much identical with the first egg tunnel. Here you're already close enough to the bone pile that what I recommend you to do is just like in episode 2 operation, hold L1 from the load but not before the logo has settled, and then just hold up from the load and it'll connect to that bone pile pretty quickly. This is the default distance, so I'm just gonna hold up on the left analog stick for half a second. And just like with the first egg tunnel, you can jump on the 9th sound cue that you hear. So here the view when you're reaching the next ice wall that you want to blow up looks like this. So once again, there's this hole on the left. So once again, it's gonna connect to the ice wall automatically when you reach like, the corner closer to you of this side hole on the left. You want to do 2 ABs once again in this egg tunnel, just like with the first one. So once there, and then wait for the egg to pass, and then do a second, and then just auto aim. And run besides the wall and wait for it to blow up. And the trigger is once again very close. And once again another cinematic skip. This is the last one in the job. An unnecessarily, stupidly hard skip exists for this bone pile as well. That only saves like a second, so good luck with that. The strat here is to land over here and wait to get a full gadget meter this time, in order to have enough juice in order to reach the next platform. And this one is even harder than the first one. And obviously you can use adrenaline burst less since you reach the next platform with literally 0 juice. But it also takes away from the AB time save. So in this final section we are under time pressure, but in speedruns we never have issues with this. So in this section we must shoot 3 darts to Grizz's butt directly at that gap in his pants. But according to the game it's good enough if you hit him anywhere below the waistline. So anywhere below that yellow belt. That was completely at the opposite side and it's still counted. After you have shot 1 dart and a second dart, the ice machine is gonna adjust its direction of ice that it's gonna throw at you. So the intended strat is to jump on these side platforms, but we don't need to do that. There are plenty of gaps already in that block. Like, this doesn't count, it just gets swallowed by the ice flow. But there are plenty of gaps on this main platform already. All we gotta do from the start is to just move a bit to the right around here, and this is good enough. You can shoot all the 3 darts from this position. Grizz's movement is pretty much RNG here though, so you gotta wait different amounts of time for him to show his butt. So in action, something like this. That was the first one. So you have plenty of time to get in the proper position before Grizz will show his butt for the first time. And then the second one, aim at the butt already, and when he shows it, then you're gonna be ready to hit it. Like this. I did miss 1 dart there, but that's just an example for you to learn from. And there. And then the trigger bomb strats. With these you can just basically keep running, but then when you press down the R2 button, remember to hold down X. It's very easy for the muscle memory to just tap both buttons like this and then you end up falling down. So instead what you want to do is to keep holding X but release R2. This is pretty tricky for muscle memory, I have to admit. And here, you really don't have to wait at all. Here, if you see that the cycle is bad, you might want to use trigger bomb to lure one of the guards to a certain position, but it's usually not required. Like here. But usually if you don't know what you're doing, it can end up backfiring on you very easily. The second one is easier because here you can detonate the bomb long before you actually have to press X button in order to use the hover pack. Here you'll often come across the actual egg and you don't have time to dodge it, but just keep going. So those were the trigger bomb strats. So now we're done with this job, let's go to the next one. Duty calls awaits. And this is a Sly job, so just smash X upon entering safe house in order to select Sly. And from the load you actually want to hold a rather unintuitive direction. Actually, you want to hold 5 o'clock. This is because the default view you get after exiting safe house looks like this. And you see that Sly actually has to go down right where the job trigger is located. What is this supposed to be? Like a liana? A tied up liana? So anyways, after you pass this, that's when you want to paraglide straight towards the job trigger and paraglide all the way over here. Like, this is an optical illusion over here. It looks like you can land sooner than what you actually can. So don't open your paraglider too early or you're gonna end up falling like this. And you don't need to do an optimal line of movement here, like run over here first and then jump on top of this platform. No, you can just keep running straight towards the drop trigger and this is what'll happen. I personally do start adjusting the camera rather early here as well. So hold your line and then mash start upon entering the job and skip a cinematic. The job duty calls itself simply revolves around following Grizz around without any cutscenes for about 6 minutes. And even though that full 6 minutes is pure gameplay, our options are rather limited to make Grizz speed up his pace. So basically this entire section is foundationally an auto-scroller. Here is the route around the map that Grizz takes during this job. During the job, Grizz can either walk with a steady pace, stand still, or run. And during the job, Grizz talks a total of 4 phone calls with Le Paradox. So the structure of the job is that Grizz starts off by walking until the first checkpoint. Then he talks the entire first phone call while standing still. Then you get a second checkpoint. Then he walks to the third checkpoint. He starts talking the second phone call, but he still keeps walking while talking with the paradox. Then he stops for a brief moment where he's gonna end the call. Then you get the next checkpoint. Then Grizz is gonna walk to the next checkpoint, and just like with the second phone call, he starts it, keeps walking until a certain point where he stops again, ends the call, you get a checkpoint, and he keeps walking. Now during this section between the phone calls 3 and 4, he's gonna look back 3 times. Then you get this checkpoint when he starts the call 4, and he keeps walking until a certain point where he's gonna finish the call. Then you get the final checkpoint, and from that 8th checkpoint, Grizz is gonna run to the end of the job. Every time the hub world reloads during this job, a total of 24 guards are gonna spawn. You can kill them by stealth slamming them, but otherwise if you try to attack them or they spot you, you fail the job instantly, or if the Grizz spots you, you fail the job instantly. When you get too far away from Grizz, the compass is alerting you that you're too far from Grizz, but there are actually 2 different zones of you being too far. This is the warning zone. You can be within this zone as long as you want and you won't fail the job. And then there's the fail zone. And you can be within the fail zone for only a certain period of time before the job fails. But there is no hard limit distance from Grizz that if you go out of a certain hard-coded sphere from Grizz, then you're gonna fail the job. No, there's a fail zone around Grizz, and if you just are in that fail zone long enough, then you fail the job. So how do we make the most of this 6 minutes that we have to just use following Grizz around? And the answer is that we farm coins and loot guards. Now, you might ask, why would we lose guards? Since doesn't it lose time? Like in the toothpick following auto-scroller in Cooper for Hire? And the answer is, by default, yes, but not when Grizz is talking a phone call. When Grizz is talking a phone call, or Bentley's voice lines or Sly's voice lines are going in the background, those voice lines are gonna keep going on in the background during that looting animation, and if the looting animation finishes before all the voice lines for that particular phone call, that includes the Grizz voice line and the Bentley and Sly voice lines back to back, then the loots you get during that time will not lose a single frame to optimal play. I'm gonna prove it by taking this loot only after Grizz has started talking. But this is important. Make sure that there's more than 4 seconds left of all the dialogues for that particular phone call when you take the loot, or otherwise a glitch will happen. Now I got this loot right before the checkpoint loaded, and see what happens. You won't get the checkpoint, and Grizz is gonna just stay still, and imagine he's talking for some time, and he's just gonna randomly stop, and the phone is gonna keep floating in midair. This loses a time varying between like 5 and 10 seconds. So listen to the voice lines and don't take the loot if you know that you don't have time before the voice lines are gonna finish. This is the only job where language matters a lot, due to the fact that these phone calls have different lengths in different languages. In German, with this second dialogue, I would instruct you to not take 2 loots from the guards, since then Grizz would actually go past that point where he's supposed to be staying still for a brief moment without stopping, so you'll actually lose time if you take 2 loots in German, but not in Swedish or English. But the loots are not everything. You can also just farm a lot of coins by breaking objects and hitting different kind of mushrooms and plants throughout the entire job. And even without taking any loots, you can optimally get almost 300 coins in this job. So now I'm showing a full clip that shows you how I farm coins in duty calls in any percent. My route is probably not the most optimal there could be. It might get optimized over time even further, and probably will. But our main objective indeed is to get 600 coins by the end of this job with Paris loot routes in order to buy Trigger Bomb for episode 3 operation. Depending on the route, you can get additional gadgets like Charge Shot for Carmelita, Rail Sprint for Sly, and with the 500 loot route specifically, even Raging Inferno flop for Murray. But if you just have 600 at the end of the job, that'll be majority of the time save you'll get in terms of coins. Charge Shot and Rail Sprint and such are just gonna be a slight extra that can save a few extra seconds. And you can get this 600 even without taking loots. And even if you would not get 600 by the end of the job, you can still reach 600 by the job Shell Shocked Heart in episode 4 and buy Trigger Bomb for that job, and it's still gonna save time. The Trigger Bomb does save a few seconds in the episode 3 operation already. And just to note, this coin farming clip was done on Swedish, since the first phone call in Swedish is considerably shorter due to an obscure dubbing error. This was done in order to simulate how much less time you have to farm coins during the first phone call in the language that is on average the fastest for this job. And why do I say on average? Well, while this coin farming clip is still going on and you should watch what I'm doing, I'm gonna start explaining the intricacies of this job that make it very pivotal in any percent runs in terms of time save. Now, this job is fully on auto-scroller by default, but sometimes, and only sometimes, not every time, this might not be the case. And at the top level, we're even trying our best in order for this to not be the case. So if you have watched Sly 4 full game speedruns in the past, then you might be aware of a phenomenon in the game where the music is very often going to be lost almost entirely at a certain point in the full game run. And this is kind of a bummer since this game has such great music, but it is a very common reoccurrence that happens due to us playing the game so fast and skipping all the cutscenes, and some of the cutscenes even with unintended ways like ICSS's. And then it's also just a thing in the game that happens when you play long enough without resetting the game. Now, aside from only music files, this can affect voice lines, dialogue voice lines in the game too. In fact, it can affect any sound file that exists in the game, but the music files are by far the most prominent victims of this glitch. But unfortunately, we don't have any clue how to affect the different outcomes of this glitch consistently. We're just guessing and simply trying to figure out how it works and why. And how does this matter in the speedrun is that some of these Grizz's voice lines, the phone calls when he's talking with Le Paradox, can be completely non-existent when playing through this job. These voice lines can just simply not play, and instead the next voice line you hear after getting a checkpoint is either Sly's or Bentley's. The phone call voice line skip, or a dialogue skip that these are most commonly referred as within the community, can occur for phone calls 2, 3, and 4. It has never been seen with call 1. The skip happens by far most commonly with call 4, second most commonly with call 2, and with call 3 it's by far the rarest. Skip 4 is considered rather consistent, since it happens actually so often even when you're not trying to go for it. Skip 2 is considered random, inconsistent, and for skip 3 it has only been documented to happen less than 10 times ever. And based on the length of these skips, they're actually some of the biggest skips in the entire game, and as far as our understanding of them go, technically RNG. So the way how these save time is that after the voice line of Grizz's phone call gets cut completely, the checkpoint that loads after all the voice lines tied to that phone call takes place. So instead of having to listen through the lengthy voice line of Grizz talking with the Paradox and Sly and Bentley having a short discussion at the end, you're only gonna hear Sly and Bentley, and then you're gonna get the checkpoint that you should get when Grizz has actually walked like 100 meters forwards from where he's walking at the moment of getting that checkpoint. So after that checkpoint, you can either restart checkpoint manually or fail the job, and Grizz will warp ahead to the location where the phone call would actually end normally, saving a lot of time in the process. So this is the reason why in the first part of this tutorial series I told you that for episode 3 and for full game, the definition of the fastest language wasn't unambiguous, because if we only take the consistent content in this job, then Swedish would always be the fastest language for any percent and episode 3, but this is not the case if you don't get any of the dialogue skips. Then in that case, the fastest language would be German, because in Swedish, those 3 voice lines that might get skipped or not are considerably lengthier in Swedish than German, and you can never know for sure which kind of skips outcome you're gonna get in this job. So when is German the fastest and when is Swedish? Well, for episode 3, getting any of the dialogue skips makes Swedish the fastest language for this particular episode, and it's safe to say that getting at least one of them definitely happens more than 50% of the time, so on average Swedish is the fastest language for episode 3. But in terms of full game any percent runs, skip 4, which is the most likeliest you're gonna get, will not be enough to make Swedish the fastest language on its own. You would also need help from skips 2 and 3, and relying on skip 3 is just foolish. And skip 2 is pretty much random. And here are the time saves of all the dialogue skips listed for German, and then separately for Swedish and English, and also for Danish, Norwegian, Finnish, and Turkish, since with all these other languages, the time saves of these dialogue skips are identical. The times are listed in seconds, and now you might be thinking, what does optimal guard voice line RNG mean? Now I'm gonna explain those and the dialogue skips 2, 3, and 4 and what to do when you actually get the skips. So the first thing you need to know is that restarting a checkpoint after getting a checkpoint, where you want to warp Grizz ahead, is slower than just failing the job. But there are different ways to fail jobs as well. You can either fail a job by directly alerting Grizz, and when you do this, an animation that lasts for 2 seconds will take place before the game transitions to the job fail animation. But if you get alerted by a guard primarily, that Grizz's animation does not matter, and only the animation of that guard who you alerted matters. And these animations only last for 1 second, so it's more optimal to get alerted by a guard than Grizz. If you get alerted by small guards, either of them, the animation length is always 1 second. But with the mammoth guards, it can also optimally be 1 second. But when you get alerted by mammoth guards, they say a certain voice line. There he said, "Hey, you're mine." And in those situations, if that voice line is longer than 1 second, then it does affect when the job fail animation is gonna start, because that voice line has to finish before the job fail animation can start. So for example, in English, there he said, "You're extinct." That took more than 1 second, so it was bad RNG. In English, the worst outcome you can get is, "I'ma put you on ice." That takes 1.9 seconds, so it's almost as slow as getting alerted by Grizz. And this of course varies based on language as well. Now if you get the skip 2 here, Grizz will not talk. Like this. After we hear Sly's voice, go behind a mammoth guard and wait for the autosave icon to appear, and then hit the guard and mash X button. And Grizz will spawn all the way over here. Now of course it is possible to save 1 to 2 seconds more by being a precise distance away from Grizz so that the job will fail due to you being too far from him instantly after you get the checkpoint, but I have not routed in that type of strats yet, so that is possible new time save for future optimizations. Now regarding skip 3, I'm not gonna wait here for 10 hours and try to get the skip just for the sake of this video, so just after getting the skip, do exactly the same thing and go behind a mammoth guard and hit it when you see the autosave icon pop up. With skip 4, the strat is to go behind that dodo guard, sometimes after the Grizzlies start running to this direction. Position yourself like this, and the camera angle is pointing downwards, and when Grizz passes the fireplace right ahead of you, from Sly's point of view, that's when you wanna stealth slam the dodo guard. We believe the skip happens the most consistently when the guard gets slammed onto the ground literally right before you get the checkpoint. Here that happened 0.1 seconds after getting it, so might have been the reason I missed it here. On average, it is faster to not kill the dodo guard, so that you can alert the dodo guard instead of a mammoth guard, and the skip does work without the stealth kill. So yeah, this skip does work in several other scenarios as well. And if you result into killing the dodo guard, then just go and hit a mammoth instead. And from the load, hold upright and keep running to this liana. That saber-toothed guard will not have time to spot you if you're fast. And here just do the coin farming as I showed already earlier. My advice is to just practice the job and definitely the coin routing in general in order to get a good sense of what is risky and what isn't, so that you wouldn't get any job fails that are not intended, since those can lose a lot of time. Now, you can lose time at the end here by being too slow. When Grizz stops running, he's just gonna stop and wait for you to reach him instead. But if you are within the end trigger area when he stops moving, then the end of the job is gonna trigger instantly. And this is a lengthy unskippable cutscene that's gonna bring you back to the hideout. And since you hopefully got the 600 coins with all the different coin routes except the treasure route, then you kinda want to mash circle to skip a cinematic, and after that mash triangle to enter ThiefNet. Now because of all the ThiefNet input shenanigans that we did with the 100 and 200 loot routes, all you gotta do to buy Trigger Bomb is to press up X circle, and there we go, and now mash X to select slide. This would not be the case if you were doing the 500 loot route though. There the inputs would be different as seen here. So if you've got 1000 or 1300 coins, you're gonna do following. Buy Trigger Bomb, but after that 5 times up and buy rail sprint, and even after that with 1,300 coins, another 5 inputs up to buy charge shot. Or then you would only have 900 coins and you would skip buying rail sprint and only buy charge shot. 500 loot route could also buy Raging Inferno flop. Additionally, this power up saves time in the final job of the game, whereas charge shot would only save time in Mechanical Menace of episode 4. So after the purchase, let's just get going to the operation. From the load you want to hold up left, and if you bought charge shot, remember to dismiss the info box notifying about that by pressing the X button. Fall down and keep tapping paraglider until you reach the ground. The chop trigger is right there, and this is a chalk talk chop trigger, so mash circle upon triggering it and not start. The movement here is partially pretty much the same as in Stone Age Recon. So here use rail sprint if you have the power up. Jump off. And with this trigger right here, it has a rather big radius. And an interesting thing regarding is that after you press circle, certain parts of this gate lose their collision. The collision gets adjusted a bit in a way that the gate can move during a certain animation that looks like this, and the gate opens. So there are 2 strats here. The other one aims to the center of the left side of that gate, then gets this trigger and runs to the right corner of the gate and squeezes through it. Another but slightly slower method is to just run straight and run against the left side of the gate, and you'll still squeeze through from that side as well, but it's about 0.3 seconds slower than the right side. So I'm gonna quickly show the right side as a comparison here. So mash circle, run to the right edge and squeeze through. This is an unskippable cutscene that leads to the pain factory. After the load, you want to hold 1 o'clock. You're gonna spawn as Bentley and you are on top of a small ledge. And after falling down from that small ledge, double tap R1 in order to AB. The cutscene trigger is very close to your spawning location. Like there, I didn't even spend the full gadget meter of AB. It was only about like 80% through, so just skip cinematic and the view you get looks like this. So I'm first gonna quickly show the strats without trigger bomb, and this is the final Bentley job where I'm still gonna show the route without trigger bomb, since you maybe might not have it, but I'm not gonna do this for Shell Shocked Hard anymore. So after you have hovered to the other side, wait until your thief meter has reloaded and then do another AB, jump on the log and then single jump on the very edge of that platform, and you should auto aim at the second target instead of the first target, and you can throw the bomb immediately. Then jump from the edge on the 7th sound cue that you hear, hover all the way, single jump on top and throw the next bomb. Now here you might auto target this, but if this happens, just break it and the bomb will disappear. With trigger bomb, I can jump instantly after throwing the bomb, but here do not detonate the second bomb too quickly. It's common that you think that it's close enough in order to blow that thing up, but it's not. So be careful with that bomb so that you actually break the thing. So here's the segment in its entirety with trigger bomb and AB. So wait here for this stone to come up, and if you're fast here, you can ledge grab or get over onto this platform, but it kind of doesn't matter since you have to wait for the cycles anyway. So it's nice to know that it doesn't matter if you're completely optimal. Like look at this for example. I can just jump straight to this one, and then I can run to the end of that fan and then hover from there. You don't want to use AB when you're on these fans, because then you won't have enough juice to hover. And you can AB to this egg basket if you want. Then single jump on the edge, but beware to not fall down, because this is a major time loss, because the egg basket is gonna be all the way over there. And you have to go to this egg basket or otherwise it won't move. The checkpoint is irrelevant. Single jump off, AB on the side, close to the edge, and aim the camera already so that it points towards the egg vats when you jump on this rock. So there's a total of 5 blades on that egg vat, and we have to shoot them all with the explosive darts. And you can actually shoot 2 at once with precise aiming and timing. There. So when there's 5 in total, optimally you would only need to shoot 3 darts. And you can adjust on the fly which one of the darts would be the one that shoots only one of those. Although since this entire section is cycle based, it's usually just easier to mash R1 when you reach this place. And then when you've hit all the darts, pause the game and skip cinematic. One last thing that I'll say is that beware this invisible wall. So there is an invisible wall right here, and it's very easy to hit that instead of the egg vat when you're aiming too much to the right. So after skipping the cinematic, you want to hold it up, since the view you get looks like this, but only briefly. After passing by this torch, you want to adjust your movement to go to the right. There's a hacking station, and the trigger area of the hack reaches around here, but I'm not gonna mash circle in order to just enter the hack as quickly as I can. No, there's a minor little glitch here. This is going to be the second Sparkrunner hack in the game, and if you would just simply enter the hack by mashing circle and not doing anything out of the ordinary, then in every language aside from English, a hack complete screen would play at the end of the hack. Now you did see that a hack complete screen for Sparkrunner hack did play in episode 1, but in English this actually doesn't happen with any of the last 4 Sparkrunner hacks. And this animation length is 4 seconds, and it's skipped by default in English with the rest of these 4 Sparkrunner hacks. But it's not enough to make English the fastest language compared to Swedish or German. But in other languages, like German and Swedish, we can actually do a trick where we press circle and start at the same time, so that it would open a pause menu at the same time that the fade out to a load starts. So this works exactly the same as the ICSSs in Getting Stronger, and you can also use the PSN menu pause buffer strat to do this. I'm gonna prove it right here. So that's what it looks like. Now, the result of this glitch is that there will be no sound of any kind in the Sparkrunner hack. And this sound glitch, for some reason, skips the hack complete animation for other languages aside from English as well. So if you're not playing in English, I recommend you to go for this strat, since it saves 4 seconds and one menu opening and closing loses only like 1.6, and it's still faster to get the second try. So hold up from the load, do 1 AB, and when you reach the trigger area, do the glitch. So the fast wire exchange is here. And here you can just hold up on the D-pad. And these cycles can be very good. You can just go past them instantly, or then you're gonna get stuck at them for several seconds. After the load, mash start in order to skip a cinematic. And after the load, hold up, but jump pretty much instantly after that. So this section, for beginners, I recommend you to do it like this. Just wait, be patient. And then just jump to the end. But if you want to go a bit faster here, then already hover on top of the second one before it rises up again, and then hover straight to the 4th one, and then on the 5th one. This is made possible the fact that the collision on this platform reaches further from the edge of these platforms than the visible rendered textures. But don't go too fast, or a thing like this can happen, where Bentley will just get bounced off from the second platform, and then you basically lose all control of your movement. After passing that section, you can't start shooting at the next egg vat already from over here, since there's one last checkpoint for Bentley to hit in order to activate the egg vat. So this egg vat is completely identical with the first one, so you can be done with it with just 3 explosive darts. But then there's that fire wrecking ball trying to distract you, so take that into consideration too, because it's gonna block your shots if they hit the fireball. So in motion, beware the fireball. And after you're done, pause the game in order to skip cinematic. Now I got a first frame pause here, so now you're gonna see Bob instead of the cutscene. And this correctly indicates that now we're gonna start the Bob section, and you're gonna spawn like this. So this section has these same kind of traps as in Going Up, but these are a bit different. In Going Up, you could press the X button to jump on the other side instantly when you see that the spikes has started to retrieve back towards the wall, but if you do it here, you just barely end up dying anyway. So here we're gonna wait a bit longer and see when the spikes are retrieved midway through. That's when you want to press the X button throughout this section. So in this Bob section we have to reach 3 of these valves and loosen all of them by jumping on them by pressing the circle button and then rotating the right analog stick, and then you get a checkpoint each time you destroy one. So for beginners, what I advise you to do is do as I'm doing right now, which is to use the casual route. And with these strats, you just want to aim 10 o'clock from the load and press X plus circle after the load completes. And after passing by that first set of traps, slide down by holding R1 and get to the valve. Then you don't have to move for that much, and you can already press the square button in order to destroy this big ass dwarf that is growing on the side of this tree. And if you have an optimal pace by doing the casual route, then the cycles are gonna line up almost perfectly. The only place where you're gonna take damage would be over here, and then just slide down to the second valve. After loosening the second valve, you gotta wait just a bit for the fire to go away so that you won't take damage. And then check what the cycles are here and adjust your movement when going past the final spike trap according to your pace at any given time. And that should be the end for that section. But it is true that this section actually contains 2 different skips, and those skips involve you to jump on top of this fence right here, and the platform where you can stand on this fence is quite small. Jumping on them is rather precise, but we can do this twice in this job in order to get to the next valve triggers quicker. So in order to do the skip, just hold upright from the load and double jump on the fence, and then double jump on the other side of the wall, or single jump. The double jump is for safety. Now this first skip in this Bob section only saves about 4.5 seconds tops, but this second one saves twice as much, but it's also a lot harder than the first skip. So now we have come over here. So here, if you want to jump on top of the fence all the way from this platform, you gotta do a slope jump, so delay your second double jump input in order to get on top of the fence. And from here you can either double jump lower down on this platform to over here, and then you just simply have to take a damage a few times to get through that fire. You can also use this box to get up on top of the fence easier, and here you can see that the area you can stand on the wall is a bit bigger with this fence compared to the first one. But a neat method exists where you actually can jump on the other side and not take damage from the fire. This is an even harder method, and it involves you to jump a bit more right before the circle boost input in order to attach on the wall. That spawns the actual damage zone for that fire. This allows us to go through the fire without taking damage, and then continue till the end as explained earlier. And after you're done with this section, wait until the valve loosening animation has ended and the cutscene will start. That's when you want to pause the game and skip a cinematic. So we need to get to that next platform, and we're only gonna reach it by using the saber-tooth costume. So from the load you want to hold right and mash L2. After that R2 and then X. And then walk to the edge, press R2 again and mash X, and upon landing mash L2 and get to the trigger by mashing circle. Now here you see this torch. Right now I'm standing pretty much directly ahead of this torch, and you can see that the egg transporter thingy has started to spin, and there's also the hook that I want to attach to. Now I'm going to attach to that hook by doing a single jump circle boost right as it crosses the left corner of that torch diagonally from this camera angle, like this. So then just swing around for a few times and let go. But our objective is to just paraglide onto this platform. And with these jets, for all beginners and even for some runners with experience, I'm recommending you to just do the casual route and use all of the air jets and aim directly at the center of all of them, except for that one on the left that is leading up to a mask. You don't need to use that. If you try to cut the corner and be too optimal with these, the possibility is that you might get hit by a fireball, and you don't want to risk it since it loses a considerable amount of time. And then when you reach the ending, just stealth slam the guard. But a slightly faster unintended method of reaching the end of this section does exist that saves about 2 seconds. And this can be pretty tricky and risky if you don't know exactly what you're doing and where the damage planes are located, since this strat involves you to dodge them and curl around them. So the strat looks like this. You're gonna paraglide, double jump paraglide input opening at the same time. And from here, paraglide to the left. There is a small gap here where you can stand, but if you go a bit further out, the damage plane will get you. Now from this location you have basically 2 options. Either paraglide over here, or then paraglide on top of this platform, but this is risky because the fireball is right there and you can take damage from it. So the more consistent strat is to first paraglide over here, and then over here, and then directly at this vortex, the third final vortex, and you'll be able to make it. After you're done, mash start in order to do a double cutscene skip. So after skipping the first one, mash start again in order to skip another cutscene right after that one. And now we enter the Grizz boss fight. So the Grizz boss fight is divided into 3 phases, and all those individual phases are also divided into 3 sub-phases. The first part of each phase is that you're just dodging Grizz's attacks when he's just skating across the rink. These sections are almost completely auto-scrollers, because all the attacks and all the patterns that Grizz is doing in the fight are completely scripted. So in terms of attack patterns, there is literally 0 RNG involved. The only 2 ways how we can speed up these parts is that we try to cut the attack animations of "Here comes the Grizz" attack and "No way you're catching the Chi Train" attacks short. And also we're trying to avoid Grizz from doing these spin moves, since those are the only extra attacks we can make Grizz do during these parts of the fight. And every time Grizz spins, it loses 1 second. In this first phase, Grizz is gonna do 1 "Here comes the Grizz" attack and 1 G-Train attack. And with the Grizz attacks, you want to just be directly in front of Grizz, and you're just gonna take damage from the attack. Murray has plenty of health to spare. And with the Chi Train attacks, you're just gonna jump over Grizz right in front of his face when he starts the attack. At the end of these sections, Grizz is gonna go to the middle and do a barricade that has these certain ice bricks as holes that you have to punch in Grizz's direction. First phase only has these 3, and where these ice bricks spawn is completely consistent. So here is the map of the area. In the first phase, the ice bricks are gonna spawn here, but how to know anyways where they're spawning since that map screen is just a freaking circle? Well, this is completely the other side, as you can see from this map image screen. So the furthest right are the Cooper gang members stuck behind the ice wall. So when you're standing on the completely opposite side of that ice wall, then you also know that you're standing on the furthest part on the left of the rink. And you can see that lengthy bone that is laid completely horizontally below the rink from the map screen's point of view, so you can use that as an indicator of where you are exactly. Every ice brick takes 5 punches. When punching the ice bricks towards Grizz, stop mashing square when punching those right after Murray finishes the 4th punch, since these square inputs are gonna get stored, and if you stop mashing too late, then Murray's gonna do a 6th punch, and that is unoptimal. After this section, we're gonna do the ice skating thing. So here we have to memorize the buttons, and a good tip for beginners who feel like they fully can't time these inputs correctly, like they're missing some inputs, pressing the buttons too late or too early. Well, the same thing applies here that applies with like Miss Ruby boss fight in Sly 1, and that's that you can actually mash these buttons and not fail. Mashing also saves very small increments of time throughout the fight. And then when punching Grizz, even though the instruction is to use square, you can actually also use triangle. So mash both square and triangle here. Then on to the second phase. This is exactly the same as the first one, just a bit lengthier. Every phase gets a bit longer when the fight progresses. So in this second phase, Grizz is only gonna do 3 Here Comes the Grizz attacks and no G-trains at all. And all those Here Comes the Grizz attacks are gonna happen back to back. So just stay close to Grizz when he starts pulling them off. And also don't be too close to the center of the arena when Grizz makes his barricades, because then you're just gonna get knocked back to the edge of the rink anyways. Now 4 times 2 ice bricks are gonna spawn, so 8 in total. One of those sets of 2 ice bricks is gonna spawn exactly at the furthest part on the left on the arena. And here the hitboxes of Murray's punches are actually large enough to hit 2 ice bricks simultaneously when they're next to each other. So optimally you would just hit 2 bricks 5 times and you would be done with them both. Now I'm gonna speed up this a bit since you pretty much know exactly what to do here. Just memorize the inputs in the ice skating parts, not that difficult. Now in this third phase, Grizz is gonna do 4 G-trains and 5 Here Comes the Grizzes. He starts instantly with a G-train, so run towards him. After that, 1 Here Comes the Grizz, then a G-train. Then he's gonna keep a small break, and then he's gonna do Here Comes the Grizz again, and then a G-train right after that. So kind of like in the first phase, but twice back to back. But then the end is kind of a hybrid between the second phase, since Grizz is once again gonna do 3 Here Comes the Grizz attacks back to back, just like in the second phase, and then 1 G-train to cap it all off, and that's the attack pattern in the final phase. And here for this final phase, a total of 9 ice bricks are gonna spawn in the barricade, 3 times 3, and since there's so many of those in this phase already, it kind of doesn't matter what your location in the rink is. But once again, doing the exact same thing as with the previous phases, just being on the completely far left on the rink works just as fine. So with these final ice bricks, you can't hit all of the bricks at once. So from those 3 ice bricks that are always the closest to each other in this final phase, try to always concentrate either on the right or the left one of those, and never the middle one, since the middle ice brick is going to get benefited from the fact that you can hit that brick too when you're mainly trying to hit the right brick and the left brick. And then the final ice skating section is pretty straightforward, and at the end it doesn't matter if you're hitting Grizz or not, it doesn't save any time. Actually, in all the parts where it's intended for you to punch Grizz, the game will automatically progress to the next phase even if you didn't punch him, but in the first and second phase it was at least faster to punch him than to just wait around without punching him, but it doesn't matter in the final phase, so you don't need to punch him, it doesn't matter time-wise anyway. So that's the end of the job. This is an unskippable cutscene, episode 3 in the bank. Thanks for watching. What a lengthy ass video. After this cutscene, mash start in order to skip a cinematic, and also skip another one when you reach episode 4, like this. Remember to like and subscribe and all that sellout stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.